my mom picked up an unknown husband on a trip. She was infected with HPV. I asked her to divorce, but she scolded me. Later, she was urged by her new husband to sue me in court. After the quarterly meeting, I thought of doubling the market value of the company this year. The arc of the mouth, how can not be suppressed? At this time, the WeChat tone suddenly rang. Click in to take a look. My mom actually sent a photo of the marriage certificate in the family group. Spouse column information shows. Wu Hao, 88 years old. A full 15 years younger than my mom. When I found out she was going back to the old house, I was afraid she'd argue with Grandpa, so I hurriedly asked the driver to prepare the car. When I arrived, I was still late. Grandpa's face was green and white, obviously furious. As for Wu Hao, at first glance it seems to be careful, but in fact, the bottom of the eyes hides smugness. It seems that my mom is picking up men in the trash again. Retracting my line of sight, I rummaged for blood pressure lowering pills and handed them to Grandpa. You've just been discharged from the hospital. Don't be so angry, your body is important. He grunted heavily. Go ask her what she wants first. I turned my head and asked my mom with my eyes. She said with a straight face, Wu Hao and I are licensed. Isn't it normal to have a wedding? This news was like a boulder that knocked me silly. However, what surprised me was not the wedding, but the change in my mom's attitude. 2 years ago, my dad wanted to divorce my mom regardless in order to be with White Moonlight. My mom didn't agree and even said that she could accept a relationship between 3 people. But Bai Yuiguang didn't want to. My dad had no choice but to secretly run away with White Moonlight. They were very lucky and collided with an out-of-control big truck on the road and died on the spot. When my mom got the news, she cried bitterly and fainted a few times. The previous comments of 2 women serving 1 husband, coupled with this occasional jerky operation, caused the Ming family to continue to be the laughingstock of the circle after dinner for 2 years. It wasn't until an even more ridiculous one came out this year that she was gradually forgotten by everyone. If we let her have a big wedding, everyone will definitely bring up the old stories again. I categorically said, absolutely not. At the insistence of my grandfather and I, my mom reluctantly conceded, the wedding won't be held, but the family banquet must be held. I nodded, then let's set it for Saturday night. The next day, I went to work as usual, only to find that there was an uninvited guest at the company. I asked with a blank face, why do you want to see me? Jin Yan sat down on the sofa, her eyes full of condemnation. Your father has only been gone for 2 years, and you don't even call me aunt anymore, thanks to me treating you so well in the past. I raised an eyebrow, mockery surging into the bottom of my eyes like a flood bursting through a dike. When I was a kid, she came to my house all day long asking for money, and even connived with my cousin to rob my books and toys. My mom, the love brain, was so enamored by my dad that when she found out, not only did she not defend me, but she reprimanded me for being petty. Luckily, Grandpa picked me up in time, so I didn't leave a psychological shadow. Last year, I won the air competition and became the president of Ming's group. Jin Yan, relying on her status as an aunt, wanted to teach me how to do things. I directly sent her a bankruptcy package. The company was started with my money anyway. Since then, she never messed with me again, and asking my mom for money has become sneaky. Now she's coming back to this. Is she forgetting the pain after the scar? I have a stern look in my eyes. She immediately revealed a pleasing smile. You're a child with a big temperament. Auntie was just joking with you. I didn't want to waste time on irrelevant people, so I simply opened the window of the sky and said, I'm very busy. I'll give you 2 minutes to say what you're here for. It's out of time. Jin Yan's smile froze and she said tentatively, I heard your mom got married? I replied as I flipped through the information on the new project. Yeah, just got her license. She came over to me, her tone a little more eager. Don't you have any opinions? I stopped moving my hands and looked up. It's not very relevant to me. Why should I have a problem with it? She became more and more anxious. Her voice became sharp. How could it not be related? If they have a son, Ming's group is going to be snatched away. Why don't we join forces and get rid of that man? I was speechless and simply called for security to drive her away. The heir of Ming's group is not something that can be snatched away by having a son. I snorted and continued working. In the blink of an eye, Saturday arrived. The family banquet was held at the old mansion. When I arrived, Grandpa was sulking. When he saw me, he was busy pulling out 2 chocolates and shoving them into my hand. I was lost in thought as I stared at the chocolates. When I was young, I was particularly depressed for a while because my father didn't love me and my mother didn't love me. He used this trick to coax me every time. Thinking of this, I revealed a bright and incomparable smile. Grandpa, I've long since stopped being that little kid who only hides and cries secretly. You don't have to worry about me. He patted me on the shoulder, with a bright concern in his eyes. Grandpa will always be your solid support. No need to be brave. While touched, I was somewhat helpless. Maybe this is where the elders think you're grieving. Just when I wanted to change the topic, my mom slowly walked into the living room with Wu Hao's arm. The 2 were dressed unusually festively. Those who didn't know thought they were having a wedding tonight. As she was slandering, my mom gave me a wink, signaling me to come over. Our relationship is really ordinary. She will not easily find me. Unless there was something going on. Curious as to what she wanted, I got up and went over to her and asked, Mom, is something wrong? She pointed to the man beside her and said succinctly, shout out to Dad. I huffed and didn't squeak. But any adult with a bit of eyesight knew that my silence meant rejection. However, my mom was completely oblivious. On the occasion of my silent refusal, she spoke again, hurry up. Wu Hao came out at the right time to round off the conversation. The child is so old, so don't push her. My mom pouted her lips, heartbroken and touched. Hubby, you are always so understanding. Seeing that they were starting to spread dog food, I wasn't interested in eating it and said, if it's okay, I'll leave first. Who would have thought that she quickly tugged on my arm? Wait, I have something to tell you. She made a request. Your uncle resigned some time ago. You just give him a manager to do. I was speechless. When my dad was still alive, he would only ask for money, but never touch the company. This new guy is good. Not only does he want to join the company, he wants to be the manager. While I was seriously thinking about whether or not to send my mom to get her brain checked, she impatiently urged, it's just a manager. Do you need to think about it for so long? Hurry up and have someone arrange it. Having been mother and daughter for more than 20 years, I knew her mixed-up nature. If I rejected it outright, she would definitely make a scene. So I didn't say the words to death, I'll go find Grandpa to discuss it. In fact, I already had an idea in my mind. It's just that the time is not yet right to let her know. After everyone arrived, the family banquet officially began. Before the chairs were even warmed up, my mom kept winking at me, asking me to announce the news while everyone was there. I turned my face away, pretending not to see her eyes blinking until they were about to cramp, and slowly and methodically served a bowl of chicken soup to Grandpa. She shouted my name in a hurry, Ming Xin. Glancing at Grandpa, he opened his mouth to reprimand my mom, and I hurriedly held him down. I was brought up by him since I was a child, and my understanding was naturally beyond normal. Without looking at me, he could understand what I meant. Grandpa swallowed back the words on his lips, and the other people understood in their hearts and were silent. The main stage was left to me and my mom. I cleared my throat. Mom, for the matter of you wanting Uncle Wu to come work at Ming's, I support it from the bottom of my heart. Her face cleared up a little, counting you as a daughter wasn't born in vain. A flash of obscurity flashed in my eyes as I continued, but you also know that Ming's is a place that emphasizes strength. For example, cousin Ming Chiu, she was able to become vice president because she took down the European market in exchange. And me, I was able to become the heir of Ming's group because I made a subsidiary company's market value increase 30 times from what it was in 3 years. She frowned and yelled with a disgruntled face, it's your own company, can't you be a little more accommodating? I smiled and replied, of course I can arrange an easier position for Uncle Wu, but it's still a basic level employee. The two men changed their faces in unison. In comparison, Wu Hao was obviously much more tolerant than my mom. Still, his resentment ran out of his eyes. I sneered in my heart. What the heck, with you also dared to Xiao Ming's. Noticing that they were trying to make eye contact, I purposely interrupted, Mom, what do you and Uncle Wu think? She bristled, her eyebrows filled with disdain, grassroots employees have no future, forget it. Perhaps they were in a hurry to discuss a plan, the two of them didn't even eat a few bites of their meal before they left the old mansion in a hurry. Without them, the atmosphere at the dinner table was quite harmonious. After the meal, Grandpa frowned, Xin, with your mom's attitude, the Ming family's newly picked up face will be lost again. I sighed, it can't be helped, all she has in her head is that crap about falling in love. When I got home, I immediately looked for someone to investigate Wu Hao. I wanted to see what kind of saint had the guts to be so fat. The next day, I took the contract for the new project to a Cantonese restaurant for a dinner party. The Song group and I have quite a history. A few years ago, I had a brief relationship with the second son, Song Qingyue. The reason for the separation was similar to everyone else. We didn't go at the same pace as each other. While I was busy with my career, he was immersed in the relationship at all times. At first, I was able to look him in the face and squeeze out time to fool around with him. Then the competition for the heir apparent became heated, and I was distracted. Out of responsibility for each other, I mentioned the breakup. Song Qingyue to salvage the fruitless, in a fit of pique ran abroad to open up the market. In the middle of my thoughts, the door to the compartment moved. I subconsciously looked over. A slender and upright figure was caught off guard. The line of sight moved up. Surprisingly, it was Song Qingyue's woeful face. I gulped and smiled awkwardly, long time no see, Mr. Song. Song Qingyue stared straight at me and said, Ms. Ming has lost a lot of weight compared to before, still very busy with work? I didn't want to get too involved in anything other than work with him, and handed over a contract, let's finish business before we catch up. His eyes suddenly turned grim, you're still the same as before. I didn't know how to respond, and could only fake a smile to cope. Luckily, Song Qingyue didn't say anything else and started flipping through the contract. This project covered a wide range of topics, and I thought he would need to read it for at least 10 minutes. Never expected, Song Qingyue swept 2 eyes, from the bag took out a pen, ready to sign. For past love's sake, I kindly reminded him, Song Qingyue, you'll lose out if you do business like this. He finished signing and lifted his eyelids, don't worry, I'm never like this in front of others. After a long time, he added, I heard that auntie got married again? I nodded, yes, this time the vision has gotten worse. Song Qingyue assumed the posture of a listener, what's going on? Because my desire to vomit was too strong, I couldn't hold back for a moment, and I told them all as if I were pouring beans out of a bamboo tube. At the end, I scratched my head a little, regretting that I had spoken too quickly. Just when I wanted to get back to business, he suddenly said, I can help. I didn't even think about it and refused, no need, I am at least sitting on the position of president of Ming's group with real skills, can't I still solve a jumping clown? Just as I finished speaking, the WeChat beep sounded. The results of Wu Hao's investigation came out. I clicked on the document. The further down the page I looked, the more alarmed I was. Wu Hao used to work in a nightclub. Accompanying drinking, accompanying play, accompanying sleep. Short for 3 escorts. As we all know, the industry of serving people with color is a youthful meal. He is already 35 years old this year, plus the economic situation is not good in the past 2 years, there is an urgent need to go ashore. However, he is also a bit lucky. When he goes out for a trip, he bumps into a love brain like my mom. With the experience of mixing with women, he was able to get my mom in 3 tries. I can't help but frown when my eyes touch the thousands of clients he's accompanied since he went to sea. It's so dirty, he doesn't have some kind of disease, does he? Just as I wanted to keep flipping through it, Song Qingyue came and said, what happened? The content was so disgusting that I didn't want to say it to other people, so I just glossed over it. After dinner, Song Qingyue suddenly tried, Ming Xin, why don't I take you home? I subconsciously refused, no, the driver is waiting for me outside. He pursed his lips, as if he was an abandoned puppy, and his voice carried a sadness that he couldn't hide, although we broke up, we can still be friends, right? When it comes to matters of principle, I have always been a person who eats softly and refuses to be hardened. In addition, Song Qingyue's face is too agreeable, I will be soft. So I sent a message to the driver and told him to go back by himself. After walking out of the restaurant, I poked the man beside me in the small arm, is your driver here? Song Qingyue froze straight away. It looked like he was stone silly by the surprise. After a while, he was full of excitement and said, here it comes. Getting into the car, I felt that Song Qingyue's excitement was comparable to Era's, and suddenly I was a little afraid that he would get overexcited and tear the car apart. In order to calm him down as quickly as possible, I stopped giving him looks. Closing my eyes, I pondered about my mom and Wu Hao. How on earth can I keep them apart? Back outside my villa, I got out of the car. Realizing that Song Qingyu had no intention of leaving, I cocked my head in disbelief and said, "Aren't you going home?" He pointed to the villa next door and said, "My house is right here." I stared wide-eyed. Nice guy. Song Qingyu had done something big without saying a word. Earlier I was wondering if the other party had forgotten that he had renovated the house at the same time as I did, but hadn't moved in for a long time. Now that I think about it, he didn't forget, but was specifically waiting for me here. I narrowed my eyes and poked his chest twice and asked, "Honestly, when did you come back?" Song Qingyu's muscles stiffened and his voice took on a slight tremble. "Last month." I grunted and continued to press. "Then you bought this house 2 years ago. What do you intend to do?" He took a deep breath. His eyes became deep, as if he wanted to suck my soul in. "Do you really not know?" It was my turn to be at a loss for words. Because of my mom's love brain, I seem to have gone to the other extreme of being dispensable for relationships. That's why I choose the latter between my relationship and my career without hesitation. Song Qingyue was a bit unlucky to run into me. I didn't know how to respond, so I simply ran away with the lid on my head. After taking a shower, I opened WeChat and was bombarded with messages from my mom. I probably scrolled through it. In the past few days, she didn't feel too comfortable in her lower body. Just now, she also found a light red pimple and wanted me to accompany her to the hospital for a checkup. Thinking of Wu Hao's previous occupation, my heart thumped. My mom wouldn't have contracted some kind of disease, right? If that was the case, my success rate in persuading her to divorce Wu Hao should be much higher. Once I woke up, I explained to my assistant about my work schedule for the morning and picked up my mom to go to the hospital. At my own hospital, the results came out quickly. "Doctor, this symptom of Ms. Ming is HPV infection and needs to be treated as soon as possible." I was not surprised. As early as I learned that Wu Hao had been to the sea, I thought he was probably sick. However, my mom couldn't accept that she was infected with HPV and yelled, "There must be something wrong with the test results. I always pay attention to my personal hygiene, and I didn't have sex with anyone else." The doctor was obviously accustomed to such scenes, and his face was unperturbed. "Just because you don't have it doesn't mean your partner doesn't." She shouted even louder, "You're not infected with HPV." She shouted even louder, "No way, my husband has always been clean." I winked at the doctor, signaling him to go out first. He understood and closed the door for us. We were left alone in the office. I then used the computer here and printed out Wu Hao's past information. In my mom's puzzled gaze, I passed the information over. "You read it first." She read 2 pages and as I expected appeared angry. But the object of her anger was not Wu Hao, but me, her daughter. In the next second, she tore up the entire information and pointed at my nose, cursing, "To make us divorce and make up something like this to slander him, you're so wicked." Sure enough, I shouldn't have half expected anything from her. I looked at her expressionlessly, wondering what else she would say. "You're so intent on this, aren't you worried that I'll have another child to steal Mings from you? It's true that after being around the old man for a long time, you become cold-blooded and heartless, with only money in your eyes. Don't you know that money is nothing but money?" I can hear her scolding me no matter how hard it is. But I really couldn't stand it when she scolded Grandpa. I hugged my chest and sneered, "Since you don't think money is important, then from today onwards, you should stop asking me for pocket money." My mom's face suddenly changed, but she still said stiffly, "Just don't, what's the big deal?" "Okay, I'll see this time. This time I'd like to see what happens to a young lady who has been raised in fine clothes and food when she runs out of money." After stopping the allowance, I explained to my assistant, "Send a few people over to follow my mom." The assistant nodded and went to work. I sat in my office, looking at the skyscrapers in the distance, my thoughts drifting away a little. According to my understanding of my mom, she neither has any job skills nor can she face doing manual labor. She usually spends a lot of money, and her monthly allowance of $8 million is not enough. Without money, she can only last 10 days at most. However, this time I missed my chance. In order to show her backbone, she deliberately moved out of the villa where she always lives, and moved with Wu Hao to the old neighborhood. There is not even an elevator there, and the street lights are broken. At night, they flicker and flicker, and it's very scary. However, my mom really stuck it out. The more she did, the more determined I was to get her to divorce Wu Hao. Because Wu Hao's influence on her was just too great. Letting things go on, I even suspected that if Wu Hao killed someone one day, my mom would take the blame for him. After a few days, my mom still did not soften. Jin Yan first came to the door. Since the bankruptcy of her family company, she simply did not fold, relying on the identity of the sister-in-law to ask my mom for money every now and then. Now that my mom is broke, she's lost her financial resources. She's looking for me because of this. As I expected, Jin Yan first revealed a fawning smile, then rubbed her hands and said, "Auntie has no money to spend, you give some." In the past, my mom was willing to give it to her, so I couldn't care less. But if she wants to come to me, I'm not willing to do it. I don't want to give her any money. If I had this kind of money, why don't I donate it to the children in the poor mountainous areas? Glancing at her about to open her mouth again, I simply preempted her. "No, you're a 40-something person, can't you earn your own money if you don't have any?" Being rejected outright by me, Jin Yan became anxious and started moral abduction. "If you are so rich, do you want to watch your aunt's family starve to death?" I directly removed the cover. "If you go out and play less cards, and if your cousin buys fewer handbags, you definitely won't starve to death." Realizing that this trick was useless, she paused and switched to another trick. "Pretend to be pitiful." I just watched without saying a word. Why didn't I realize before that this aunt of mine has such a high talent for acting? If she doesn't go into show business, she's really burying her talent. While secretly spitting, an aura suddenly flashed through my mind. Soon, a plan was formed on how to get rid of Wu Hao. When Jin Yan finished her performance, I spoke slowly. "I won't give you any money. As for whether my mom gives it or not, I don't care." At the end, I pretended to mention it inadvertently. My mom should still have some money right now, but it's hard to say after another 10 days and half a month. As we all know, my mom is willing to pay for the sake of my dad. If she lost her affection for my dad, Jin Yan's sister-in-law would be dead in the water. Seeing Jin Yan's face suddenly changed, obviously heard my voice. Seeing her go out in a hurry, I smiled with satisfaction. Next, I can sit back and wait for the dog-eat-dog show to begin. Sure enough, Yan did not let me down. That afternoon, the person who followed my mom came to report. With a tearful performance, she managed to impress my mom. With that, she stayed in the house rented by my mom and Wu Hao. In order for me to have a live melon, a few bodyguards were also smart enough to record a video. Seeing Wu Hao's face so ugly that he looked like he had eaten a fly put me in a good mood. After 2 days, Song Qingyu sent a message. Said that there are still a few items that need to be perfected for the cooperation matters. Now it happens to be mealtime again, why don't we go out for dinner together? I'm not an uneducated little girl, naturally I saw his secret thoughts. However, I did not poke him. This new project is of great significance to Ming's group. Not to mention going out for dinner, even going out for a late night snack at 3 in the morning would be fine. Going to the restaurant, I realized that Song Qingyu had deliberately dressed up today. Compared to last time's well-tailored suit, this time there were obviously a few more hints of seduction. When he saw me, he handed over a bouquet of flowers. Pink Eustoma. The flower language is eternal love. I suddenly did not dare to take it. Song Qingyu seemed to be on a collision course with me, just holding up the flowers. After a few moments of stalemate, I let out a long sigh and decided to stop avoiding the topic of feelings and talk to him clearly. Song Qingyu, my family has been in an eventful time lately. Even if we get back together, the end will be the same as before, so don't toss it. His tone was incomparably firm as he returned, a lifetime is so long, I can wait until you have the time. I went numb, my temples jumping. After pressing it down a few times, an idea popped into my mind. How about just letting nature take its course? After I figured it out, the whole thing was a lot easier. Next, we discussed the cooperation matters that needed to be perfected while eating. When all the matters were finalized, it was already past 10 in the evening. Back home, I thought about how busy I was with work in the past 2 days and didn't pay much attention to the movements on my mom's side, so I sent a message to ask the bodyguard. A few videos were sent over there. Last night, Yan and Wu Hao had a big fight in the corridor, and both sides even got into a fight. The reason is that Yan went out to play poker and lost more than $100,000. She didn't have the money to pay, so others chased her home. She knew that my mom still had some money and wanted her to help. Wu Hao was not happy, in the sight of the yin and yang. My mom hesitated when she was exactly on top of him. Yan was furious, pointing at Wu Hao's nose and cursing, soft rice man and so on. To be able to mix in the nightclub to this age, Wu Hao is not a vegetarian. He didn't confront Yan head on, but held my mom and talked to her. The fact is that the company's business is not a business, but it is a business. Yan completely exploded, moved up. On the one hand is the old love sister with more than 20 years of emotional foundation, on the other hand is the new love in the heat of the moment, my mother left and right difficult. This is not even a few days, people are quite emaciated. Her face is a bit thin and out of shape. I thought that this dog-eat-dog drama can last until the winter. I never thought that my mom did not know how to choose, so she pointed the finger at me. Looking at the person who came to my house early in the morning to spread wildness, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. When my mom saw this, she was so angry that she wanted to rush over and hit me. However, I am 28 years old this year, and I am no longer a little girl who is bullied but is powerless to resist. Before she could touch my face, I yanked her arm and said expressionlessly, "Mom, you're still as calm as ever." When she couldn't hit me, she cursed, "You've turned against me now, haven't you? How dare you make a move against me?" I know she has a way of making trouble. So I don't argue with her. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the pent-up anger that was blocking my heart, I asked directly, "What exactly are you doing here?" My mom straightened her back. "I have no money, give me money." I snorted and deliberately blocked her mouth with what she had said. "Didn't you say you didn't want any pocket money when you were in the hospital?" She held her head high, rightly so. With her head held high, she rightfully replied, "So what if I did? I have a share in the Ming family's 100-year foundation, I deserve this." Needless to ask, Wu Hao must have taught her that. Otherwise, based on my mom's brain alone, she wouldn't be able to say something like that. I skimmed my lips and refused her request without hesitation. "What's done is done, you're the one who said you don't want pocket money." She exploded after hearing this, her attitude as if she was treating her enemy instead of her own daughter. "Ming Xian, you're really too vicious. I don't want to hear these words anymore. If you have this time, wouldn't it smell good to take it and earn money?" After shaking off her arm, I thoughtfully gave her 2 choices. "Do you want to leave on your own, or should I have someone ask you to leave?" She gritted her teeth, her voice filled with resentment. "Ming Xian, you wait for me." If it was just her alone, I wouldn't have taken that to heart at all. But now there was the additional variable of Wu Hao. The next day, my mom's retaliation didn't come. The news of Grandpa's accident came first. "I'll be right over." Hanging up the phone, I couldn't care less about explaining my work, put on my jacket and rushed out of the office. When I arrived at the old house in a hurry, I saw that his old man was fine, except for some small bruises on his forehead, and my heart hanging in my throat was finally put down. Because of the emotional ups and downs before and after too much, I did not hold back, tears fell. Grandpa waved at me, his loving eyes full of pity. "Good boy, how to fall golden peas?" I obediently sat down to his side, palpitating back. "It's not because you are scared." He patted the back of my hand. "Don't worry, Grandpa's life is hard." After I calmed down, I asked about the accident today. "How did you get into a car accident in the first place?" You have to know that the cars he used often were cross-checked by specialized personnel every day. And his exclusive driver's driving skills are 1 in a million. Speaking of this, the air pressure around him was lowered to the extreme. The car that I sat in today was tampered with, but fortunately, Oldie had a sharp mind and realized something was wrong early on. I have envisioned countless possibilities, but I never thought the truth would be like this. Because this side of the old mansion is full of old people who have been using it for many years. This means that those who have access to them must be very close to the Ming family. A bold guess popped out of my head. The person behind the scenes, could it be those uncles from the side branch? Grandpa picked up his teacup and blew on it, throwing out a question to test me. "Who do you think is the most likely?" I thought about it. Last time when Grandpa had a heart attack and went to the hospital, the 5th cousin was the most enthusiastic. But he can't hide anything, so I don't think so. As for 3rd and 6th cousins, who are fanning the flames, it's even more unlikely. They have never been able to do anything but pick up the pieces, and they don't have the guts to do anything bad at all. On the contrary, it is the second cousin uncle who smiles all day long, but his smile never reaches the bottom of his eyes. I had a target person in mind, so I gave Grandpa to comparison. He laughed, didn't admit or deny it, and turned his words around. I just had someone put out the news that I was seriously injured in a car accident, and on the company side, you keep an eye on it more. I answered yes, and began to look forward to the fish I could catch in this muddy water. As soon as the news of Grandpa's coma broke, someone immediately pressed the issue. Surprisingly, my mom was the first to jump in. She barged into my office with a few people and aggressively let slip, according to the law, after Grandpa's accident, I am the first heir. Curious to know what other backstabbing she had in store, I deliberately irritated her. This position has long been settled, and it's too late for you to say that. She looked disdainful. As long as the old master didn't leave a will, it doesn't count. At the end, she looked at me with a look of charity. For the sake of mother and daughter, I'll ask you one last time. The position of president of Ming's group, do you give or not? I smiled faintly. No, if you have the ability, come and grab it. She bit down hard on her back teeth, and after a while she pointed at me and said, you're not going to do this until you're forced to do it, are you? Okay. After receiving the court summons, I laughed. My mom even sued me to court. This makes me wonder, am I really my mom's biological? Why don't we find time to do a paternity test? It wasn't long before the assistant hurried into the office. Mr. Ming, Ms. Ming claimed in front of the media that the only reason you were able to become the president of Ming's group was because you coaxed the old man into squeezing her out of her position as the first heir. Now the internet is blowing up and everyone is cursing you. Noticing her concern, I waved my hand in disbelief. It doesn't matter to me. The main thing is whether public opinion has affected the group. Assistant, the stock has dropped quite a bit, and the shareholders are talking about it in the group. Just as I was thinking about what my next move should be, Grandpa sent a message. It said that he had found out who was behind it. I raised an eyebrow, arranged for a general meeting of shareholders to be held tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The assistant had just left when second cousin's uncle arrived. He was still smiling. No one who looked at him would be able to give him a bad face. After all, it's not like he's smiling. I collected my thoughts, and followed suit to squeeze out a fake smile. Second cousin uncle, what do you want to see me about? He sat down right on the sofa. I'm here as a lobbyist this time. I wanted to know what kind of trick he was playing, so I put down my work and sat down across from him, pouring tea as I asked, lobbyist? He nodded his head and began to persuade him. Yes, you and your mom are the closest thing to family. There's no need to take it to court, right? I cocked my head in faint confusion. She's the one who took me to court. You should be there to persuade her. Second cousin uncle's smile froze. Obviously, he didn't expect me to come up with this trick. Against people with a lot of heart, being straightforward is indeed a surefire way to kill them. However, the smile on his face quickly recovered, and he continued, she doesn't need to be persuaded. You should just give in. Mothers and daughters don't have overnight grudges. Hearing this, I already knew his purpose, so I stopped beating around the bush. You want me to take the initiative to give up the position of president of Ming Group? He subconsciously denied. I don't mean that. I asked back, then what do you mean? When he roundly didn't come back, he glanced at the time and said, it suddenly occurred to me that I still have some things to take care of, so I'll be leaving first. Looking at that hurriedly departing back, I snorted. How dare you come here to test me with just this much skill? I really don't know where that competence comes from. Returning to my computer, I was about to continue working when I was interrupted by a message from Song Qingyu. He sent me a document with a message. Although you won't let me help, I can't help it. I clicked on the document. I had to say that Song Qingyu had a bit of something on him. He had actually looked up all the guests Wu Hao had picked up and listed them on a table. One guy was even key-marked. At a glance, Wu Hao has a close relationship with a distant cousin of his second cousins. This means that the encounter between him and my mom was not a coincidence, but a deliberate arrangement by the second cousin. Things were really getting interesting. The next day, my mom, Wu Hao, several cousins, and other shareholders gathered in the conference room. For the position of president of Ming's group, my mom took me to court, and even accepted an exclusive interview with the media. I don't need to tell you, everyone knows what's going on. Based on the principle of a quick decision, I went straight to a show of hands. The other shareholders have elected me. The reason was that the dividends had multiplied several times in the past few years under my leadership. A few cousins were the opposite of him. One by one, they voted for my mom. In the name of it, my mom is the first heir of the group. I know, they feel that Grandpa is no longer able to do so, so they no longer hide their ambition. By supporting my mom, this idiot, to the throne, they could divide up the Ming group. I'd scared, realizing that I swept over one by one, and asked nonchalantly, are you guys sure you won't change? Several cousins answered in unison, sure. I gently knocked the desktop twice with my knuckles. I hope you guys won't regret it. Hearing this, except for the second cousin whose expression didn't change much, the other cousins all looked mocking. They seemed to be saying, what a time to be playing this useless game. I gave my assistant a wink. Soon, Grandpa walked into the conference room on his crutches. I'm not dead yet, and you guys are so impatient? Grandpa sat down and swept his sharp gaze over the crowd. My mom and the others were all trembling. After sweeping around, Grandpa retracted his gaze and stared at my mom alone to ask, while I was away, you teamed up with other people to rob Ming's group with XIN. Not only did you sue her, but you also smeared her in front of the media. Is this how you act as a mother? Since retiring to the second line, Grandpa hadn't been this angry for a long time. This series of questioning directly scared my mom into tears. Grandpa slammed the table. How dare you cry? My mom was so scared that she withdrew her tears and spoke tremblingly. She was the one who stopped my pocket money first. Grandpa grunted coldly. I know Xin. There must be a reason for her to do so. My mom didn't dare to squeak. Probably realizing that she would be scolded no matter what she said. After warning those with evil intentions with his eyes, Grandpa took me back to the office. Thinking that he had already found out who was behind it, I waited stiffly until my assistant closed the door before asking, Grandpa, who was the one who bought off the inspectors that day? Grandpa slowly spat out 2 words, Wu Hao. I shook my head disapprovingly. He's not the mastermind. It takes a lot of money to buy off the people on the old mansion side. Wu Hao's undersea staff definitely didn't have that much. Speculating along this clue, it is impossible to say that my love-brain mom is involved in it. My mood instantly became heavy. Grandpa must have thought of it too. However, he didn't seem to be affected by it and continued from where he left off. That's why I didn't call the police to arrest him. Considering that Grandpa's health hasn't been too good in the past 2 years, I took the initiative to help out. I'll take care of the rest, you rest well. Grandpa responded in a loud voice, good, good. Next, I continued to work. Grandpa, on the other hand, recorded a video and put it on the official blog. Hello everyone, I am the founder of Ming Group, Ming Hui. Regarding the matter of the heir, the entire group has only recognized Ming Xian from the beginning to the end. And my unfilial daughter gave up her competition 20 years ago. There is no such thing as Ming Xian stealing her position. In view of the fact that her behavior has chilled my heart, I am officially severing the father-daughter relationship with her with immediate effect. It had to be said that although Grandpa was old, he was still very capable of keeping up with the times. For example, he played this wave of public opinion war quite well. Saying half and leaving half, guiding netizens to pick up on it. Turning up the ridiculous things my mom had done, people took pity on me. Swung into my internet mom and dad. As for my mom, she was trolled by everyone in a different way. During dinner, I was torn for half a day, but decided to ask, Grandpa, do you really want to sever the father-daughter relationship with my mom? Grandpa didn't hesitate to say, yes, ever since she married that Wu Hao, she's gotten more and more ridiculous. Based on what I know about her, she definitely won't let it go. There's probably more to come on this. After lamenting, I sent a message to my assistant, asking her to arrange for manpower to investigate second cousin's uncle. Things developed pretty much as I expected. When the news of Grandpa's unilateral severance of ties spread, my mom came running to the old mansion. When eyes met, she shrank for a moment. Tears flowed before words. To be honest, my mom's acting was a bit poor. I don't know what the person who gave her the idea was thinking. If you had the heart to do this, you might as well teach her how to speak properly first. Grandpa's been in the business for decades, and he's far more discerning than I am. What I can detect, he can naturally detect as well. So his voice was full of dislike. With your little acting skills, you'd better not come out and embarrass yourself. My mom's weeping movements lurched. I thought that she would break her defense and spill her guts over this. Who would have thought that she would hold back and continue to cry? Those who didn't know would have thought that my family was having a funeral. Grandpa and I looked at each other, he pestle and mortar cane and said, cry again, get out. My mom didn't budge and kept crying. This trick used to work in the past. However, my mom was going to be disappointed this time. The maids received Grandpa's eye signal and immediately came over. One left and one right set up my mom and dragged her outside. She froze for a few seconds, and immediately struggled and shouted, Grandpa, you're doing things to the extreme today. Aren't you afraid that no one will pay homage to you when you die? Grandpa coldly grunted, not afraid, I have a hard heart. She glared at me sorrowfully and roared with a strained neck, you will regret it. After driving her away, Grandpa immediately ordered, since she said I've gone too far, take back all the assets in her name and freeze every bank card. People really can't die. If my mom hadn't come to the old house, Grandpa would have turned a blind eye for the sake of father and daughter. But now, she's ruined everything by herself. A few days later, my mom did not come to me, but Wu Hao found the company first. I was curious about his purpose, so I let my assistant let him in. When we met, I said nothing and waited for his performance. Wu Hao was harboring evil intentions, naturally not as calm as I could be. But in 2 minutes, he tactically coughed twice, trying to get close. Xin, I've been married to your mom for so long, I haven't been able to find a chance to chat with you, I'm really sorry. I didn't chime in, please call me Ms. Ming. Wu Hao's expression froze, and his knuckles whitened from the excessive force of his grip on the cup. I was not interested or concerned about his psychological changes. I glanced at the time and tapped my fingertip on the desktop to issue an ultimatum, 3 minutes, make your intentions clear or leave. Wu Hao put away his smile and put on a posture of an elder, Ms. Ming, Ruoxue is your mother no matter what, won't you feel guilty and uneasy in your heart if you just watched him break off the relationship with Elder Ming like this? I shrugged, no, after all, I didn't cause this. The moral abduction didn't work, so he switched to another way. Selling misery, telling how hard it was for my mom these days. After talking for half a day, he realized that I didn't even change my expression and broke his guard, Ms. Ming, don't you have a heart? I laughed coldly, you don't really think that I don't know anything, do you? Mr. Ling Feng. Mr. Ling Feng was his stage name at the time he went to sea. It wasn't until he climbed onto the high branch of my mom that he went back to the name on his ID card. Wu Hao's face suddenly changed, his expression flustered to the naked eye. I don't know what you're talking about. I was about to rip off his cover when he grabbed the door and walked out. Almost bumping into the person who came over to report for work. After work, Song Qingyue asked me out for dinner as usual. Thinking that I had already refused several times, and that it was not good to refuse again, I agreed. When I went to the hot pot restaurant, I found that he ordered a special hot pot base, and I couldn't help but be a little surprised. I thought you couldn't eat spicy food? Song Qingyue confidently replied, you like, I can. After a couple of bites, I saw that his lips were slightly swollen from the spiciness, and his eyes were flooded with physiological tears, so I couldn't help but laugh and cry and say, Big brother, it's just a meal, there's no need to be so desperate, right? He was so hot that he couldn't speak, and could only keep pouring ice water into his mouth. Because he drank too hard, some water spilled out from the corner of his lips. It slowly flowed down along his bare chin. As he swallowed, the rolling knots of his throat were already somewhat seductive. After adding a layer of water light, it is even more sexy flavor. This makes me involuntarily recall those once indescribable images. Realizing that this is not good, I hurriedly stopped my brain. Song Qingyue drank an entire jug of ice water and finally slowed down. Under the warning of my eyes, he obediently ate the dishes in the clear soup pot. After the meal, I touched my bulging stomach, so bracing. Song Qingyue suggested, go for a walk? I thought about it, today's work was all taken care of, it would be good to relax. Just as I was about to nod, my cell phone suddenly rang. When I saw that the number was the person who had been sent to my mom's side, my heart thumped. An ominous premonition directly hit my mind. Returning to my senses, I hurriedly picked it up and asked, did something happen to my mom? That side hesitated for a few seconds, she. Is missing. What do you mean disappeared? You have not been following her? Sorry, today Wu Hao sighed inexplicably. More than a dozen people, everyone is professionally trained. There were so many of them, we couldn't stop them. Hearing this, I knew that there must be second cousin's handiwork involved. Otherwise, Wu Hao alone wouldn't have been able to find these people. After instructing them to hurry up and investigate, I hung up the phone and frowned as I contemplated my countermeasures. Although my mom and I had an average relationship, she had given me a life even if she was no better. Based on that alone, there was no way I could stand by and do nothing. At that moment, a text message suddenly popped up on my cell phone. It was an unfamiliar number. Before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, transfer 200 million to this card number. If you dare to call the police, I'll let your mom die without a trace. I knew that it was from Wu Hao. In order to stabilize him, I quickly replied back, good. At the same time, I got the relevant person to locate the location of this number. As a result, the other party told me that it was a virtual number. The server was abroad and there was no way to locate it. I had no choice but to increase my manpower to look for my mom. At this point in time, Wu Hao definitely hasn't run off to another city yet, and is probably staying at some abandoned factory in the suburbs. However, the bodyguards rummaged through the surrounding warehouses and found nothing. I had no choice but to let them expand the scope and open a carpet search. A few hours later, they were about to turn over the whole city, but still found nothing. I kept pacing back and forth in the living room. As if I was an ant on a hot pan, I was in a frenzy. Song Qingyue forcibly held me down on the sofa, handed me a glass of water and advised, Xin, things have already happened, it's useless for you to be anxious, why don't you sit down and rest for a while? Otherwise you'll collapse before Auntie can be saved. I took a deep breath and tried to control the panic that kept welling up. You're right. At this point, there were only 40 minutes left before the agreed upon time. I was worried that Wu Hao would jump over the wall, so I could only transfer money from my own account first. My intuition told me that he would not stop there. Sure enough, that number soon sent a new text message over. 2 days, want your mom to go back safely, transfer another $2 billion in US dollars. Such a large sum of money, it will take me some time to raise enough, can you give me a few more days grace? Okay, I'll give you one more day, but I advise you not to make any small moves, your mom is still in my hands. After a night of no sleep and a lot of effort, I felt like my whole body had been emptied out. But now, in this situation, I couldn't go to sleep even if I was told to. I thought carefully. The second ransom should be what second cousin's uncle wanted. The last car accident was like a knife hanging over his head. He must be worried about being found out by Grandpa. If I'm not wrong, he should want to take the $2 billion and run abroad with his whole family. I knew what was going on, but they still had my mom, and knowing that didn't help. To be honest, I thought about calling the police. But I thought that my second cousin's uncle has a relative working in the police station, so I was afraid that it would leak out, so I could only give up. When I was so worried, the assistant brought someone in. Her face was bruised and swollen to the point of not being able to see her original face. After examining her for a few moments, I relied on my excellent memory to recognize her as my mother's maid. Noticing that there wasn't a single good spot on her body either, I sucked in a breath of cold air. Auntie Wang, who beat you up like this? She bowed her head and replied, it was Madam and Mr. They ran home in a hurry last night and tied up a few of us maids with ropes and locked us up in the kitchen. When I tried to escape and was discovered, they beat me up. I understood at once. This so-called kidnapping was actually self-directed by my mom and Wu Hao. Thanks to me, I didn't close my eyes for the whole night last night because I was worried about her. Now that I look back and think about it, my anxiousness was a joke. For a moment, anger leapt from the soles of my feet straight up to the sky. I was so angry that my entire body was shaking. At the same time as I was angry, I was a bit thankful. Luckily, I didn't let Grandpa know about this, otherwise his old man wouldn't know how angry he would be. At this time, Song Qingyue took me into his arms and gently coaxed me by swinging my back. It's not worth it to get angry over those messy people. When something bad happens, it's actually fine if there's no one to comfort you. But Song Qingyue's embrace made me cry. He knew my temperament and knew that I was afraid of embarrassment, so he didn't dare to look at me. After wiping the tears from my face, I pushed him away and said as if nothing had happened, I'm a little sleepy, you stayed with me all night, go back and get some sleep too. Song Qingyue answered yes, carried me back to the bed and put me down, and carefully tucked in the corner of the quilt before leaving. When I woke up, that unfamiliar number sent me another text message. Before 10 o'clock tonight, transfer 1/3 of the ransom here, or don't blame me for being rude to your mom. I treated it as if I didn't see it and got up to eat by myself. In the evening, I showered early, wanting to see what kind of drama my mom and Wu Hao could put on. At 10 o'clock, I received a video. As soon as I clicked on it, my mom's screams came out from her cell phone. Seeing her beaten with blood all over her face, lying on the ground like a lump of mud, I was so shocked that my pupils shrank. Changing out of my pajamas as fast as I could, I slipped on my slippers and ran downstairs in a hurry. Song Qingyue was still in the living room, and when he saw me in such a hurry, he immediately ran over and asked, what's wrong? I asked the butler to prepare the car and people before I had time to answer. Wu Hao is in a hurry, the fake kidnapping has become real. He reflexively said, I'll go with you, don't get rid of me. I nodded and led him to the car. When I arrived outside the villa where my mom always lived, the bodyguards took care of a few guards and went in gently to check the situation. Only after confirming that it was safe did Song Qingyue and I go in. When Wu Hao saw me, his eyes were about to fall out. Why are you here? I snorted, a day has passed and you all didn't realize that there's someone missing from the kitchen? Seeing my mom lying unconscious on the floor, I frowned. At that moment, Wu Hao copied a fruit knife in a swift manner and tried to put it against her neck. As a result, before he could touch my mom, he was kicked out 2 meters away by the bodyguard. I squatted down and probed my mom's nostrils. Luckily, there was still. I casually ordered 2 bodyguards, you 2 hurry and take her to the hospital. At the end, I pointed at Wu Hao who was kicked and seemed to have fainted. This one is sent to the police station. Having resolved the matter weighing on my heart, my entire being relaxed. Just as I was dragging Song Qingyue outside, Wu Hao suddenly opened his eyes and rushed towards me, brandishing a fruit knife. I was unprepared and it was too late for me to dodge. In the nick of time, Song Qingyue protected me in his arms. The next second, I heard him let out a muffled grunt, then the sound of something heavy hitting the ground. I was about to poke my head out to see what was going on, but he covered my eyes. Aren't you afraid of blood? Don't look. Next, Song Qingyue and my mom went to the hospital. I, on the other hand, went to the police station with the evidence I had collected. Shortly after reporting the case, second cousin uncle went to jail. I heard that when he was arrested, he was directing the servants to pack up and prepare to run away. Coming out of the police station, the bodyguard called. Learning that my mom had woken up, I went to the hospital. Seeing me, her mouth moved. However, I couldn't hear anything. I guessed she had lost her voice from shouting while being beaten. Seeing that she still wants to try, I forcefully interrupt. Wu Hao was sent to the police station by me. He was involved in 2 cases, kidnapping for ransom and attempted murder, so if you want to see him in the future, you'll have to go to the detention center. That's right, his meeting with you was not by chance, it was arranged by second cousin uncle, in order to steal Ming's group. Both of her eyes glared round as she struggled to get up. Compared to being beaten by Wu Hao not loving her was obviously more difficult for her to accept. I held her down and called for a nurse to sedate her. When she was lying honestly on the bed, I continued, as for you, for the sake of you giving birth to me, I won't let you starve to death. However, I will only pay the minimum standard of alimony, nothing more. Her eyes showed pain and regret. Unmoved, I walked out of the ward with an expressionless face. If I had known it would be like this, why did I bother to do it in the first place? After some time, the verdict came out. Second cousin uncle, as the main culprit in both cases, was sentenced to life imprisonment. Wu Hao, an accessory, was sentenced to a relatively lighter sentence of 15 years. What I didn't expect was that Chen Yan was involved in the kidnapping. Isn't she not dealing with Wu Hao? But on second thought, it's not surprising that there are only common interests and no permanent enemies. Because the amount of money involved was not small, she was also sentenced to 8 years. Everything settled down. My life went back to the way it was before. The only difference was that there was one more Song Qingyue. Originally, I thought that he had grown up a few years and would be a bit more mature than he was when we fell in love. Who would have thought that after the last kidnapping incident, he became even more clingy? Whenever I open my cell phone, I'm bound to see a message from him. All of them are full of nonsense. For example, the hospital food is not good today, blah blah blah. It's a bit annoying, but it's still cute. On the day Song Qingyue was discharged from the hospital, I was afraid that he was going to accuse me of being heartless again, so I purposely set aside half a day to go there. When I met him, he closed the door of the hospital room without saying hello. I was startled. What are you doing? Song Qingyue hugged me fiercely and buried his face at my neck. Xin, let's get back together. I seriously thought about this. In the past few years since I broke up with him, I have never met anyone who moved me at a glance like him. Now that he's back, might as well get back together. After thinking it through, I nodded. He excitedly cupped my face and kissed it.